Life in higher dimensions. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Have you ever thought that in fact, this three-dimensional space that we have been perceiving may just be the tip of the iceberg? As a philosopher once joked, we may just be watching a play on a two-dimensional movie screen, while the real world is three-dimensional or even higher. Let's start with an interesting analogy. When you were a kid, did you ever play with a toy called a four-dimensional Rubik's Cube? It's actually similar to the Rubik's Cube we usually play with, except that it exists in a dimension beyond our intuitive understanding. Imagine if you were a small creature living in a two-dimensional plane, then the three-dimensional world would be like a magic existence for you, full of complexity that you could not understand. It is this extra dimension that makes us think that there may be beings that exist in dimensions that we do not perceive, and that may act and think in ways that are completely beyond our imagination. Imagine that the world we live in is like a three-dimensional book, and extra-dimensional beings are like the secret chapters hidden behind the pages, which can only be glimpsed through special means. A number of scientists and philosophers have made bold visions of how this kind of existence interacts. For example, the famous American theoretical physicist Michio Kaku once mentioned in a public lecture, if our universe is really a multidimensional space, then perhaps some intelligent life forms have already mastered the technology of traveling freely in higher dimensions, and our so-called miracles may just be a way for them to interact with us. A way of interacting with us. Hearing him say that really seemed to kind of make people's blood boil. In fact, to talk about hyperdimensional life, we have to talk about higher dimensional theories in physics first. For example, string theory and membrane theory tell us that in order to explain all the fundamental forces in nature, including gravity, electromagnetism, etc., our universe may need as many as 10 or even 11 dimensional structures. Although we perceive only 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time in our daily lives, scientists speculate that the other dimensions may be curled or tightly wound on tiny scales that are not easily detectable. In other words, these extra dimensions may be like secret rooms hidden in the walls of our homes that can only be opened with special keys. These keys are ever-advancing technology and new physical theories. How do extra-dimensional beings interact with us? This is an interesting question. It has been hypothesized that these beings in higher dimensions may manifest themselves by interfering with our three-dimensional space. Imagine if you were walking down the street one day and suddenly felt that time seemed to slow down for a certain moment, and even the tiny particles in the air seemed to be dancing. Could you possibly think that this was some kind of hyperdimensional beings regulating our perceptions? Of course, this is just a wild guess, but such a scenario has already been fully realized in some science fiction novels. As a real-life example, you may have heard of the so-called UFO phenomenon. Many researchers and eyewitnesses have described seeing objects that seem to move out of the ordinary or disappear in an instant at certain points in time and space. Some speculate that these phenomena may be related to the activities of extra-dimensional beings. For example, a certain veteran UFO researcher once mentioned in an interview, sometimes the trajectories of those flying objects completely break our conventional understanding of the laws of physics. And this may be precisely because they are operating in a higher dimensional space, which naturally appears to be bizarre and inexplicable in our 3 dimensions. While this claim has not been fully accepted by mainstream science, it has inspired countless people to fantasize endlessly about the way hyperdimensional beings interact. To go a little deeper, if there really are extra-dimensional beings out there, their perceptual abilities must be far superior to ours. Imagine, our human vision, hearing, touch is only a kind of rough extraction of external information, while those living in higher dimensions may have a variety of sensory systems that we cannot imagine. For example, they may not only be able to see the flow of time, but also perceive the tiniest fluctuations in space. This is like a musician who can not only hear the notes in music, but also feel the emotional resonance of each subtle vibration. In that case, hyperdimensional beings may be able to interact with us in ways we can't understand, by manipulating the fabric of space-time, and may even be able to send messages in a way we can't perceive. Interestingly, the scientific community is not entirely averse to such a scenario. A certain young theoretical physicist said at a seminar, what we call dark matter and dark energy could be just some kind of outward manifestation of the activity of life in higher dimensions. As unbelievable as it sounds, this view actually reflects, to some extent, the current quest for unknown phenomena in physics. Dark matter and dark energy have long been puzzles in astronomy and physics, and while they make up the vast majority of matter and energy in the universe, we have no idea what they really are. Perhaps the answers to these mysteries are hidden in higher dimensional realms that we have yet to touch, and hyperdimensional life may be one of the manipulators of them. At this point in the conversation, you might ask, is it possible for us to interact directly with these life forms? This question has a strong sci-fi flavor. Imagine that one day you suddenly notice a string of strange symbols appearing on your cell phone screen, or that you receive an extremely mysterious message in your dreams, as if someone is conveying some kind of information to you. Perhaps this is not a hallucination, but a higher dimensional being trying to communicate in some way that we do not yet understand. In fact, history is replete with records of such mysterious events. In ancient times, there were numerous mysterious symbols, prophecies, and strange phenomena, and some scholars have speculated that these could be the very sticky notes left by higher dimensional beings. The first of these is ancient Egypt. The majestic pyramids and the silent sphinxes have endured for thousands of years, but they are still a marvel to the modern world. Scholars have long discussed the techniques used to build the pyramids. How could the ancient Egyptians have accomplished such precise cutting of stone blocks and stacking of massive structures without modern mechanical equipment? One speculation is that perhaps these works were not merely the result of human ingenuity, but may have been guided or assisted by some kind of extra-dimensional intelligence. Some have even gone so far as to suggest that the interventions we call aliens or supernatural forces are in fact post-it notes left behind by higher dimensional beings. Using mysterious symbols to suggest to us, how do the mysterious symbols suggest how we can understand the new laws of time, space, and energy? Of course, although orthodox archaeological and engineering explanations also offer a range of possibilities, this kind of supernatural intervention has always been both romantic and mysterious. As a scholar of ancient Egyptian civilization said in an interview, if we can understand the geometry and the flow of cosmic energy implicit in the construction of the pyramids, we may be able to glimpse an information structure that transcends three-dimensional perception. And then there are the Nazca lines in Peru, South America. These huge ground-level shapes, which can only be seen in their entirety at high altitude, appear as a kind of hidden information carrier. The shapes vary in shape. There are birds, monkeys, and meandering lines. It has been suggested that these shapes may be ground signals left behind by higher dimensional beings to convey some kind of information across space and time, or to mark the coordinates of some kind of energy field. Imagine if an intelligent life form that exists in the fourth or higher dimensions wanted to send us a message. It would probably not choose words that we can easily understand, but would use geography, geometry, or even astrology to encode the message. The layout and mysterious nature of the Nazca lines fit right into this line of thinking. Scholars who support this view point out that the precision of these lines and the symbolism of the figures themselves seem to go far beyond the mere artistic creations or religious rituals of human beings at that time. As one folklorist put it, perhaps these lines are a message from a higher dimension, waiting to be interpreted with a new perspective. Speaking of mystical prophecy, how can we not mention the French prophet Nostradamus? His quatrains have continued to be translated and interpreted through the centuries, and countless people have seen historical events in them. Some have speculated that such prophecies, which seem to be ahead of their time, may not simply be the product of human intuition, but rather a hint of some kind of higher dimensional intelligence. In other words, higher dimensional beings may have encoded the message in vague and symbolic verses in a way that we cannot directly understand. Nostradamus' prophecies are often obscure and full of multiple possible interpretations, which gives people unlimited room for imagination. A scholar on prophecy once mentioned in a lecture, if we consider Nostradamus' verses as fragments of a higher dimensional language, perhaps they imply a mechanism for transmitting information across space and time. a similarity to our attempts to understand quantum information and the multidimensional universe today. It's the same thing we're trying to understand today with quantum information and the multidimensional universe. Coming to Europe, Stonehenge is equally full of mysteries. Located in England, the prehistoric site's alignment, orientation, and interaction with the sun and moon make one wonder if some mysterious force is at work behind the scenes. It has been suggested that Stonehenge was not only an astronomical and calendrical tool, but also a receiver or transmitter of a higher dimensional energy field that captured or transmitted information from the higher dimensional world through a specific geometric arrangement. In support of this view, scholars will mention that each boulder in Stonehenge seems to be not simply a stone, but a specially designed antenna. This antenna theory, if understood in another way, is like the modern use of satellites or radio waves to transmit information. The ancients may have used this magnificent structure to communicate with some kind of higher dimensional being. As one folklore scholar once described, standing in the center of Stonehenge, it's as if you can feel a call from the distant past, from the depths of the universe. Perhaps it's a coded message left behind by higher dimensional beings. Drawing the eye back to the American continent, the hieroglyphics and sophisticated calendar system left behind by the Mayan civilization are equally striking. The Mayan calendar was not only extremely precise, but also contained a deep understanding of the cyclical movement of the universe. Some researchers believe that this calendar system may not just be a record of celestial movements, but a code reflecting the laws of spacetime in higher dimensions. Many of the symbols in Mayan hieroglyphics seem mysterious and difficult to decipher, and it has been speculated that these symbols are actually a way of encoding higher dimensional information. Imagine high-dimensional beings. If they want to leave a message in a world where we can only perceive linear time, they will probably choose a way of expression that transcends ordinary language. And hieroglyphic writing is exactly in line with this characteristic. A Mayan culture researcher once mentioned in a seminar, these symbols may be signals across dimensions, allowing us to see a more multidimensional and complex picture of the universe when interpreting history. Ancient Chinese historical records are also full of accounts of mysterious phenomena. For example, ancient documents such as the Shiji, records of the Grand Historian, and the Shanhaijing, classic of mountains and seas, record a number of events that are difficult to explain by common sense. There are accounts describing the flickering of strange lights in the sky and the appearance of strange flying objects, as well as accounts of strange omens and mysterious symbols. Some scholars believe that these accounts may not be mere myths and legends, but rather hazy descriptions of certain high-dimensional information phenomena by ancient people. For example, some of the strange creatures and mysterious geographical phenomena recorded in the classic of mountains and seas. Some people speculate that these descriptions may not be entirely out of human fantasies, but rather, they are hints from higher dimensional beings in another language level. As one ancient book researcher said, what the ancients recorded in poetic language may not only be natural landscapes, but also some kind of information fragments that transcend conventional time and space. Of course, in addition to these famous examples, there are also some seemingly scattered mysterious events that have attracted widespread attention and discussion. Flying saucers and ancient celestial signs in Egyptian, Babylonian, and even ancient Chinese astronomical records. There are records of fireballs, strange lights, and other strange celestial signs. In Egyptian, Babylonian, and even ancient Chinese astronomical records, there are records of fireballs, strange lights, and other phenomena in the sky. Although modern science often uses natural phenomena such as meteors and comets to explain them, some scholars have suggested that these phenomena may also be the result of higher dimensional beings intervening or transmitting information in some way. After all, if we can see some kind of anomaly beyond the conventional celestial movement, we may be able to associate it with the on-demand of higher dimensional intelligence. Mysterious maps and uncharted territories. The Ottoman Piri Reis map, for example, depicts parts of uncharted continents and seas, and is thought to be accurate beyond the navigational technology of the time. The origin of such maps has been hypothesized by scholars to have been inspired by some sort of extra-dimensional information or guidance from a higher dimension. While this may sound whimsical, it is this possibility that makes history endlessly imaginable. Unexplained architecture and engineering. In addition to Stonehenge and the pyramids, there are a number of ancient architectural monuments around the world, such as the megalithic cities of South America and the mysterious Stonehenge in East Asia, whose intricacies of design and construction have also often sparked speculation as to whether some kind of transcendent intelligence was behind them. Some people tease, if there were no computers and modern physical theories in ancient times, on what basis did the ancients come up with such precise engineering? Maybe they used high-dimensional black technology. These mysterious events and symbols above, while still lacking conclusive evidence in mainstream science, they certainly open the door to the unknown. From the geometric construction of the pyramids and the grandiose patterns of the Nazca lines, to the vague and layered messages in the prophetic poems, to the strange phenomena described in the ancient literature, every detail makes people wonder, is the world we live in just the tip of the iceberg? Are there higher dimensions of existence that are sending us messages across time and space in their own unique ways? I still remember that once, at an international astronomical conference, a scholar from Europe shared a very intriguing experience. He said that while conducting a certain deep space telescope observation, he suddenly captured an extremely unusual signal, which seemed to contain not just random noise, but irregularity, as if there was some kind of linguistic structure hidden behind it. Although everyone at the time attributed it to an instrumental malfunction or data error, he always felt deep down that it could be a transmission of information from a higher dimensional world. As he later said in an interview, perhaps in some distant dimension there is a group of invisible, intelligent beings who are telling us something in a language we have yet to decode. This statement, while full of romanticism, is thought-provoking. Is our perception really broad enough to capture all the information in the universe? If we discuss the possibility of hyperdimensional beings interacting with us from a technical point of view, we can draw on certain phenomena in quantum physics. The phenomenon of quantum entanglement tells us that two particles can be instantly associated with each other, even if they are separated by millions of light years. Some theories suggest that this superluminal interaction may suggest a mechanism for transferring information in higher dimensional space. In other words, if there are extra-dimensional beings, they may be utilizing this kind of teleportation to influence our world by manipulating higher-dimensional information. Imagine that a seemingly random quantum event could actually be a signal sent by some kind of advanced intelligence in higher dimensions, while we can only detect their existence through the faint signs of quantum physics. Moreover, from a biological perspective, the very definition of life may need to be revisited. Traditionally, we think of life as requiring water, carbon-based molecules, and a host of chemical reactions, but if life can exist in higher dimensions, its form of existence may not be constrained by these limitations at all. Like the concept of silicon-based life that has been proposed, high-dimensional life could exist in a way that is completely beyond our comprehension. Perhaps they would not require a material form at all, but rather a purely informational state of being, able to move freely through multidimensional space. Flow. Imagine this as if the data in your computer could either exist on your hard disk or be instantly transferred to any corner of the world via the internet. Higher dimensional life could exist in just such a digitized form, very different from our traditional sense of life, but still able to interact with us in some way. Interestingly, this idea has been well described in some science fiction novels. I remember an episode of Star Trek that mentioned a type of being that could transcend time and space. They seemed to live in a higher dimensional space and were able to travel between the past and the future at will. Although that was a fictionalized episode, many scientists actually couldn't help but smile and think that maybe someday in the future we will actually discover hyperdimensional intelligent beings similar to those found in science fiction, except that they will no longer be fictionalized, but will be part of reality. In addition, I once read a paper on multidimensional universes, in which the author cited many ancient Greek and Eastern philosophies to argue that our universe is just a projection of many universes, and that intelligent beings who exist in higher dimensions may be influencing the evolution of this projection in some way. As the paper states, if there are extra-dimensional beings, they may be able to see a panorama that we cannot see, and we would be their pawns. This statement sounds rather dramatic, but it has also sparked a heated discussion in the academic community about the diversity of the universe and the infinite possibilities of life forms. Of course, having said that, one might ask, well, is there any way for us to directly perceive or communicate with it? This is really an intriguing question. Some scholars have suggested that advanced scientific and technological means, such as the use of artificial intelligence and big data technology, can be used to look for anomalous patterns in the massive amount of astronomical observation data, which may be able to capture the clues of high-dimensional life activities. In fact, just as we have gradually pieced together the face of ancient civilizations through the efforts of archaeologists, we may also be able to decipher the hidden code words in the universe through sophisticated scientific instruments and detailed data analysis. In terms of practical applications, perhaps future technology will allow us to build a dimensional detector similar to today's gravitational wave detectors, but much more sophisticated, able to capture those weak signals in high-dimensional space. Imagine that one day we might be able to use such a device to directly hear messages from higher-dimensional beings, just as we capture the sounds of distant galaxies through radio waves. As an electronic engineer once teased, perhaps in the near future, we will receive a mail from the superdimensional post office, written on it, "Hello, from the four-dimensional friends." Speaking of which, do you also feel that air of both mystery and excitement? Countless unsolved mysteries in the universe are waiting to be explored, and life in extra dimensions is undoubtedly one of the most tantalizing subjects. It has not only challenged our inherent perceptions of the nature of life and the universe, but has also inspired countless scientists and philosophers in their tireless quest for knowledge. Although we currently have no conclusive evidence of the existence of higher dimensional life, it is this unknown that makes science so fascinating. As Albert Einstein once said, "The most beautiful things are mysteries." And hyperdimensional life is one of the shining stars in that endless mystery. Perhaps in the near future, with the continuous progress of science and technology, we will have more tools and theories to solve this mystery. At that time, we may be able to perceive the existence of higher dimensions in a more intuitive way, and even interact with those extra-dimensional beings in the true sense of the word. Imagine the shock and wonder of seeing a world beyond 3 dimensions through a new sensory experience. Overall, the concept of hyperdimensional life is not just a science fiction fantasy, but a possibility raised by scientists as they try to understand the mysteries of the universe. It challenges our traditional notions of space and broadens the boundaries of our understanding of life and intelligence. From multidimensional constructs in string theory to information transmitted over distance in quantum physics, all of these provide some theoretical support for the existence of life in extra dimensions. Although we are still only at the beginning of our quest, it is this process of exploration that allows us to continue to break through and move towards the frontiers of the unknown. As an old legend says, when the brightest star in the night sky twinkles, it may just be a smile from a higher dimensional world. Although it sounds like a poetic fantasy, it is this romantic imagination that has made countless people look up to the stars night and day, longing to unlock the secrets hidden in the depths of the universe. Science and art have always been intertwined in each other to inspire unlimited inspiration. Perhaps one day, we will find that the so-called extra-dimensional beings, in fact, has been using their unique way to pay attention to our world. And we are in a wonderful journey, constantly approaching the ultimate answer. I can't help but think of a book I once read that describes a concept called extra-dimensional thinking. In the book, it is written that the way of thinking of human beings is unique, but if we can break through the traditional 3-dimensional thinking mode and enter into a new realm of multi-dimensional thinking, then we may be able to understand the real secrets hidden behind the universe. Although this idea sounds a little mysterious, it is this kind of bold vision across reality and fantasy that has inspired countless scientists and artists to constantly try to redefine the nature of the world. Of course, having said that, I also have to admit that most of the current discussions about life in extra dimensions still remain at the stage of theories and hypotheses. The scientific community does not yet have direct experimental evidence to prove their existence, and perhaps one day we will realize that those so-called anomalies are in fact just a reflection of our insufficient understanding of the laws of nature, while the real higher dimensional world still maintains its mysterious veil. But this is the charm of science. The unknown always attracts people to explore, and every new discovery may give us a deeper understanding of the universe. I remember that in a science popularization lecture, an old scientist said when he talked about the mystery of the universe, "Whenever I look up at the starry sky, I always feel that there seem to be countless untold secrets hidden in those twinkling stars." Perhaps one day we will realize that the starry sky does not belong only to our dimension, but is a portal to another. These words sound both romantic and mysterious, and one can't help but think that extra-dimensional life may be hiding behind that portal, waiting for us to unveil it. Well, that's it for this installment. Likes and comments welcome. Thanks for watching.